Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to our share on the 13 Principles of Faith of the Rambam. I'm here with my cousin Michael Kalati, and Bezrat Hashem, we will be discussing the fourth principle. But before we start, this share should be Le'ilui Nishmat, um, uh, Leah Bat Mazal Tov, and Yoel Avram ben Nissim V'Tzivia. So I'll just start by giving a little précis of the fourth principle, which deals with pre-existence of Hashem.
Or eternality.
Yes, like the eternal nature of Hashem. And that is that we believe that this unity, the unity of Hashem, that we mention is absolutely pre-existing, and that no other existing thing besides Hashem was pre-existing in relation to Hashem. And the proof to this is in the Chumash, in Devarim 33, verse 27, where it says the abode of the pre-existing God. Okay, so that's the fourth principle. I'm going to hand you over to Michael.
Thank you. So we'll try and make as much sense as we can of a very abstract concept. There's nothing in life that we deal with that is eternal in our everyday life. So the concept of something not to be generated or to degenerate is very foreign to our minds, and it's naturally foreign to our minds because we're surrounded by birth and death. But the Rambam in this principle is trying to stress that we have to cast out, when we think about God, we have to cast out any thoughts that God may age, or that God grows. God is in a permanent state and eternal. So the more we can mold our minds to understand that, the closer we are to understanding the reality of God. So let's start with looking at biblical sources for the concept of the eternality of God. So we read in Yeshaya chapter 44 verse 6, he says, "Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no God." So this pasuk affirms the exclusive divinity of God, that there is no one who preceded him and no one could outlast God. Everything begins with God and everything will end with God. And our existence is a mere, just a flicker of a candle in his eternity. Some more biblical quotes from Devarim, chapter 33, verse 27, are quotes, "The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms." Also in Tehillim 90, verse 2, he writes, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." In Isaiah 41, verse 4, "Who has performed and done it, calling the generations from the beginning? I, the Lord, am the first, and I with the last, I am he." Also from Shemot, chapter 3, verse 14, "And God said to Moses, I am who I am." In the Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, which indicates an eternal, ongoing being. So let's look now at the Rambam, the composer of the 13 Principles, his references to the eternal nature of God. In his Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed, he states that time is just a created order for our existence, and actually God exists outside of time, but influences us within time, within this kind of manifestation that was made. So in the Guide to the Perplexed, Maimonides writes, God is not subject to time in any way, and time has no bearing on his existence. This matches Aristotle's unmoved mover concept of God, the one who causes change without himself changing. But Rambam goes further. Um, God's eternity is not a matter of duration, but essence. It's outside of time. He exists outside of time and transcends time. Also, in Rambam's Mishnah Torah, Yesodei HaTorah, in chapter 1, I quote Rambam, he is the cause of all existence, and there is no other cause for his existence. If all beings were to cease to exist, he alone would still exist. So if God exists outside time, he cannot be influenced by events, aging, or any measure of the passage of time. Now let's look at some Talmudic sources for the eternality of God. And we learn in Brachot 58 Amud Aleph, blessed is he who has existed, exists, and will exist forever. And Midrashic sources in Midrash Tehillim on Tehillim 90 teaches a human being is formed from the dust and will return to the dust, but God is above time and beyond the reach of death. Also in the Midrash in Bereshit Rabbah 1 verse 4 makes a very profound observation, and I quote, God looked into the Torah and created the world. This suggests that the Torah itself is a reflection of God, and so even the Torah preceded time as God does.
The Aramaic for that is Istakel B'Oraita Ubare Almai. Hashem looked in the Torah, whatever that means, and he created the world. So the world the Torah is the blueprint of the world. Also, you're saying that about Hashem and the Torah and the Jewish people. There's an intimate connection between the three, because we say Kud Shabrichu Oraita V'Klal Yisrael Chadhu. The Torah, sorry, Hashem and the Torah and the Jewish people are one. If they're all one, why did Chazal see to put them in that specific order? And that is because Hashem's at the top, you have the Torah in the middle, and the Jewish people at the bottom there. The way that the Jewish people can connect with Hashem is through the medium of Torah. So the Torah is in the middle, that's the oracle where where Hashem, as it were, speaks to us. And Tefillah is where we speak to Hashem. Okay, right. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, Midrash in Pesikta Rabbati 21, I quote, before the world was created, the Holy One, blessed be He, was alone, and His name alone was exalted. This affirms the concept of God wasn't simply first in a chronological sense, but He existed as a kind of complete, total independence in Himself, complete in Himself. So if we look at Kabbalah and the concept of Ein Sof, which is without end, this is how God is referred to in Kabbalah as the Ein Sof, without end, or infinite. This kind of conveys this truth of God's essence that's beyond any limits or boundary. This is hard for us to really sometimes comprehend, because again, like I say, I find a hard time imagining anything that has no beginning or end. It's a very hard concept because it's so foreign from everything we experience on a daily basis. But this is the reality. God is unlike anything that is in our physical reality. And that's important. That's the message of this fourth principle, is to realize how the unique quality of an eternal God, and try to kind of, push the idea around in our mind to gain some kind of comprehension of this. So continuing with the Kabbalah theme, in the Zohar, volume 1, 15a, states, before creation, there was only the Ein Sof. So according to the Zohar, in the idea of the Sifirot or emanations, time is seen as a kind of lower class of emanation. It's simply just an emanation. We think of time as being all there is, but no, the time is simply a construct that Hashem uses to interact in this world with us or influence us. They're expressions of Hashem's light, but not His essence. The Sefer Eitz Chaim, the Arizal teaches, and I quote from Gates 1, chapter 1, in the beginning, the infinite withdrew his light to create a space for creation. So this withdrawal, which is known as tzimtzum, it demonstrates how time and space were created phenomena, allowing us as finite beings to exist and interact. But Hashem is beyond this tzimtzum. So what we have to understand also that it's the same God that spoke to Moses, it's the same God that listens to us and gathers our thoughts, watches our actions. So we can be comforted by this, the thought that, the God that dealt with Bnei Israel is the same one that is intimately 24 hours a day watching ourselves and influencing us. The same gods. The eternality means that the same power exists today that always existed. And I'd like to finish off with an analogy which perhaps gives us an opportunity to try to relate to this very, very abstract concept. It's the analogy of the candle and the sun, which is from Midrash Tanchuma on Vayikra 1:14. It basically tells a story about a wise king who invited guests to his palace. And before they arrived, he lit candles to welcome them. As the guests entered, the sun rose and the candles were no longer needed. And the king said, "Extinguish the candles, the light of the sun is enough." So our Chachamim often use this image to teach us about relative presence and permanence. So all of creation, planets, people, kingdoms, even time itself, are just like these candles. They flicker into existence for a moment and then vanish. Hashem is the sun, metaphorically speaking, that's always shining and never extinguished and independent of time, and is not going to be dimmed by anything. So even empires and the greatest achievers in human history, they always have a beginning and they have an end. Only God is eternal. And just to conclude, beautifully summed up by Yeshaya 44:6, I am the first, I am the last, besides me there is no God. So
Very good. That's beautiful. Ani Rishon, Ani Acharon, Uvaladi, and Eloah. If I'm not mistaken, that's the quote in Hebrew from memory. Anyway, thank you very much, Michael. That was very interesting, short and sweet, to the point. Well, next time we'll see you with the fifth principle. Until then, Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen, V'Amen.